Which Side Podcast is a proud member of the Which Side Media Collective.
This is episode 70.
Yeah, we have Reannon on from Generation Veggie.
They have an Indiegogo campaign going on right now. They're a new nonprofit organization focusing on vegan parenting.
Yeah, it's super awesome. You should check them out. They have lots of good rewards, like a vegan board game.
I'm going to get that one.
Yeah, so
Totally stoked.
sure to check them out on Indiegogo.
At generationveggie.org. What events do we have going on this week?
Fort Collins has a fundraiser. They're trying to get money for End Rape Culture Fort Collins, and they are trying to get money for posters and stuff. They're doing a screening of Legends of the Night, and they still need some people to back them. So go to tug.com/go/SRCSUS.
Also, that should be listed on our website.
Yes, so click on events, Fort Collins.
And the slingshot of the week, March 12th, 1930, Gandhi began his 200-mile salt tax protest march. We all know that ended with blood. He did. Lots of people did, unfortunately. Enjoy the show.
Enjoy.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side? Which side are you on? 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 Which side are you on?
Hello?
Hey, it's Reannon. Sorry, I tried to call and it declined. It ended the call. I'm not sure what happened.
Huh.
Oh, sorry. We were just all getting set up, so it's probably just...
Didn't see it.
Yeah, through all that.
No problem.
Oh. So sorry, I'm just getting my tea ready. I can't do this without tea.
Fair enough.
So, I'm Jordan.
I'm Jeremy. Sorry, I'm yawning.
That's okay.
He needs his tea, I guess.
I do need my tea.
It's the time change probably kind of messes you up.
It does.
So is it's pronounced Reannon?
Reannon.
Reannon. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like
will
that name.
Probably screw that up a whole bunch.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
No problem. It's actually a Fleetwood Mac song. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but it's spelled differently.
Okay.
So your parents were huge Fleetwood Mac's fans?
They were Fleetwood Mac fans, yeah. I think my mom was sort of just a hippie a little bit too, but
Did you watch American Horror Story?
I've seen it. My husband watches it on Netflix, so I've seen it in passing.
Oh,
Is there a character?
I was gonna say, what's the
Yeah.
connection? I don't know the connection.
There's a witch on there that really a big fan of that. That's all.
Fleetwood Mac?
Yeah, and they have what's the lady's name on Fleetwood Mac? I can't think right now.
Stevie Nicks.
Yeah, Stevie Nicks is actually she does a few guest spots on it as well. One of the characters is in love with Stevie Nicks, and then
That's so funny.
Stevie Nicks is
She'd be
technically a
perfect
witch.
for that show. She's always in like robes and
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's nice.
Yep.
My wife watches the show. I know nothing of it. I'm not a horror fan at all.
I'm not either, but I got sucked in a little bit because this episode, the season I saw was more like psychological thriller stuff.
Okay.
It wasn't yeah. Usually horror movies give me nightmares for weeks. Like I don't even go near that stuff. But yeah.
So with your mom being kind of a hippie, did she raise you vegetarian or vegan, or did you come to it later in life?
Oh God. No, that's so funny. No, I was raised in a small town in Wisconsin.
Uh-huh.
It's called Dousman, Wisconsin, population 1,200. It's about 45 minutes west of Milwaukee, so we were still near civilization. But no, I grew up on cheese pizza or sausage pizza and macaroni and cheese with tuna fish blended into it, and a lot of pancakes. We had milk in a bag. That was a big thing in Wisconsin for a while. Like, it was supposed to be fresher. They put it in bags. Very strange. But no, definitely not raised vegetarian or vegan. I think when I told my mother I was going vegetarian, she said, "Well, you're probably going to kill yourself." She thought I was going to die. And I was 19. And when I went vegan, I think she just thought that I had lost my mind. But now, 13, 14 years later, whatever, she is on board. She's definitely not vegetarian, but she tries, and she's happy that we're raising our girls vegan. So,
So what brought you down the
change.
path of, like, what made you go to be vegetarian and then make the choice to be vegan?
I think it was always something that was kind of an inevitability. I just needed the right information. My mom tells a story of when I went to the Wisconsin State Fair when I was 9 or 10, and I saw these chicken bodies on a spit, like a roasting spit, and I just started screaming. Like, it was the first time I realized that animals were involved. Like, I didn't really get that before. And I started just freaking out, and my mom thought I had been stung by a bee or something. So they kind of talked me down and convinced me that that's what chickens were for, all that nonsense. So then I kind of put it out of my mind. And then when I was a freshman in college, I picked up a vegetarian starter kit, one of PETA's vegetarian starter kits, and I read the whole thing. And by the time I finished reading it, I was done with meat. I was like, okay, great. I'm done with that now. I was really angry at what I had read about factory farming. I was really angry that nobody had ever told me about this before. And about a year later, I kicked the dairy habit and went vegan. I actually discovered I was lactose intolerant when I was a freshman in college, and it was devastating to me. I'm from Wisconsin. I grew up eating a lot of cow's products. And I was pretty addicted. I actually cried when the doctor told me I couldn't have milkshakes anymore. And this was at a time when I don't think that Silk was around. I remember the dining hall on campus had Eden soy, like little individual boxes of Eden soy, which I think still exist, but It was like brown. It was brown and kind of gross.
It wasn't kind of. It was just gross.
Yeah, it was not a good scene. So then I would get bummed, and I would go have some ice cream, and then I would have to spend the whole day in the bathroom. Like, it was just bad, but I was addicted, and the products weren't as good. So once I discovered vegan ice cream, I was like, okay, I can do this.
What vegan ice cream did you first get introduced to?
I think it must have been back when So Delicious was called Soy Delicious. I feel like that was one. Because I was like, this is delicious. It's a good name. And they had different flavors, and it wasn't just vanilla. And so then I said, okay, and it took me a few months to really, I think, get all of the dairy, to really be fully vegan, just to kind of learn new recipes and kind of get that sorted. I wasn't a very good cook. I was 20. I didn't really know what I was doing. But, and I remember the first time I ever had vegan cream cheese, and it was, I don't remember the brand. It wasn't Tofutti. It was something else. And it was so gross. Like, I was so sad. It had water on the top of it. Like the water had separated.
Was it the Rice Stream brand? They used to have one years ago.
It might. It was purple, I think. I remember that for some, the actual packaging was purple, and I was super stoked to try it. And then it was just the saddest time, because I love food, so I was just excited to try new things. And luckily now there are so many great products. Kids these days don't know. They don't know what it was like.
Oh my God, they have no idea.
No idea.
They really don't. There's just so many good things now. There's so many options now. It's hard to even tell people what to start with. Well, this is good or this is good, which is a great problem to have. But that was definitely not the case in the year 2000. It's amazing how much has changed in a decade plus.
What's been the biggest change for you, that you've noticed
after being vegan?
Yeah, in the vegan community, the biggest change.
Just people even knowing what it is. I mean, I went vegan in 2000, and I was involved in animal rights on campus at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and then I got a job at PETA, and I actually managed PETA's vegan campaign for a few years, and then I did other things there as well. And some people kind of knew the word vegan, but just the name recognition, the idea of all these celebrities going vegan, every time I hear of some new big thing, some celebrity going vegan, some new chef opening a vegan restaurant in some big place, I feel like I'm in some sort of fantasy land. Like it's just a huge shift with awareness, I think, and all these videos like Vegucated and Forks Over Knives, and people, trying it out for health reasons. Many of them then discovering the animal issues and the ethics that go behind it. It's just growing so much. I mean, the number of vegans doubled between, I think it was 2009 and 2012.
Yeah, it's
according
amazing.
according to the Vegetarian Resource Group. Like it blows my mind, all of it. So I think just the recognition of it. The movement itself, modern animal rights, has only really been around since the late 70s, early 80s, which is about as old as I am. I mean, obviously people were talking about being vegetarian before that, but, animal liberation, the founding of PETA, all of this modern stuff has really only been since then. And so many things have changed. And of course, there's a lot of problems to fix. But I just see it getting nothing but better, which is really exciting.
Can I ask you about your experience with working with PETA?
Sure.
I've always heard that that most employers have a hard time with the management structure of PETA.
The management structure of PETA. I started there. It was my first job out of college. And I tell people that there's no better training environment, I think, for any job, because you have to work hard. The standards are high. And there is some level of kind of sink or swim. Not that they don't provide certain training, because they do, but you really have to stand on your own and be willing to put the time and the work in. I didn't have a problem with the management structure, but that might have been because I was in management. Maybe I'm just a man in this situation. I don't know. I became a manager after like 9 or 10 months, and I was managing a lot of people who were older than me, which was kind of awkward. But I think that the challenge with PETA is it's a lot of oftentimes young people, many of whom it's their first job or one of their first jobs. It's a high level of expectation. It's high intensity. You're working on saving animals' lives. I mean, it's not just some job at a bank or whatever. It's important. Not that banks aren't important, but it's life or death in some situations, and you oftentimes can feel that pressure. Certainly, the folks sort of running the organization have very clear goals and a very clear vision of what the organization is going to be and how it's going to be structured. I would not describe it as a democracy, at least not at the top levels. It's very much this is how we're doing it. But I think that's part of why they're successful in getting the message across and really being experts on a whole number of issues. Sometimes I think people can get bogged down by consensus. Sometimes you just have to make a choice and move forward. But at the same time, the people who I worked with there were the smartest, truly just the brightest, most passionate, most competent people I have ever worked with. I'm lucky now. My colleagues at Farm Sanctuary are very much the same. Some of them are former PETA employees as well. We have a lot of wonderful people. I'm in that group, but there's just a lot of people who are really smart and capable and thoughtful, who are really guiding this movement. And I just feel really honored to be able to even kind of be part of it.
What do you feel about a lot of the activist criticisms of organizations like PETA?
Certainly, I think we need to have those conversations internally and keep each other honest. I prefer that we focus on trying to help animals and less on trying to tear each other down. In college, I studied social justice movements, and I've done, readings about that sort of thing historically. And I think PETA fills an important role. For example, just as a comparison, in the women's suffrage movement, you had women who were marching in the street and who were very sort of radical by the time standards, really making the issue public, really going above and beyond what was culturally acceptable. And then you had women working for women's suffrage who were talking to senators and flirting with them and trying to basically work the issue from the inside. And I think that PETA has an important role in holding our feet to the grindstone, kind of keeping us honest. They have very clear ethical standards, and they don't waver from that. My biggest shock in starting to work at PETA, because I actually had been a member and sort of been aware of them for a number of years before I even became vegetarian, is that they just do so many things that you never hear about in the press. I mean, just so many things, working with local city governments, working with individuals who call in about cruelty cases. It's just a constant barrage of people needing help in order to help animals, and they do it all. And I think having those discussions internally, making sure that we're being as effective as we can is important. But I do get depressed when I see activists who are so focused on trying to tear down what other organizations are doing that maybe they've forgotten about the animals who we're trying to help.
I'll be honest, I have a complete love-hate relationship with PETA.
Sure.
It's in the same sentence, I can go both directions. I think they're important and they do a lot of great things, especially helping local activists. I can't tell you how many times when I first became an animal rights activist, they helped me either financially or just giving me directions and helping, and they're always there.
Resources.
And the resources never charged me any money. They're just like, here's what you need to do. And so I think that it's a great organization for that concerned. I cringe sometimes at the tactics.
And it's interesting because people will describe their tactics to me as radical. And I've never been able to get someone to describe to me what is radical about it. Is it sensational? Sure. Is it trying to get, media attention, and basically they're playing the game that the media has set out for them.
Oh, completely. I'll completely agree with that. I just don't agree with the game.
Right. Well, no, and that's fine. And I don't think that, many people who work at PETA maybe agree with the game in principle either, but we're trying to look beyond what the game is and say, okay, we need to help animals. How is our culture structured? What do we need to do to get our message across and actually communicate to people what's happening? Because the thing about PETA that I always thought was interesting is that we would do all these things to get press coverage and get people going to our website. But once you get to the website, it is serious as a heart attack. Like it is the best information, the best videos, like everything that you could possibly want to know about animal rights, how to interact with animals, why we're concerned about XYZ issue. That's the key. And I think from a marketing perspective, they really are unparalleled. I think there's no doubt to that. Yeah. So I personally think that without PETA, most people wouldn't know the phrase animal rights. The idea of veganism certainly would be out there, but I don't think it would be as public. They have really just driven forward, pushed forward at every step to make sure that this issue is out in front of people. There's a reason that Amnesty International is not covered in the press every single day across the world. PETA is consistently, all the time. And I don't think that we can overestimate the importance of that, especially in today's, media intensive society where you have information in front of your face all the time. Reaching into that sphere and being able to actually reach people all over the planet, I think is incredible. So certainly, there may be points of contention or things that individual animal rights activists disagree on. And it's hard to describe unless you've worked there or, have been volunteering or interning or really involved in their organization. But I have nothing but positive things to say about them, really.
Well, that's good. That's good to hear.
At the end of the day.
So you said that you were at the University of Madison?
Yep.
What was animal rights like there? I know that vivisection was a very big thing in Madison.
Yeah, there's a big primate research facility there. PETA just had a campaign a year or two ago about cats being experimented on and these ridiculous eye experiments. So our animal rights group at the time, we were focusing on more vegan outreach type of stuff. We would set up tables on campus, and one of my friends would make these huge pots of barbecue seitan, and so we'd pass out these sandwiches and cookies to people, and it was more like, hey, it's delicious, you should be vegan. That was kind of our approach, because, you know, everybody loves food. College kids especially love food, especially free food. So that was more of our thing. We did host like an animal rights week on campus, and we brought in actually somebody to speak from PETA. We were going to have Carol Adams come, but she had a family emergency and couldn't come. So we were trying to just kind of do educational outreach types of things. We were working on getting more vegan food in the dining halls, and we actually met with the head of the campus dining, and she was like, I'm just worried that people aren't going to want to eat it because vegan food is brown. We were all, and this woman actually was both the head of the dining hall and also had a beef cattle farm. And so we all looked at her and we were just like, but vegetables are colorful. Like, and she was like, yeah, I guess that's true. Like, it's just the strangest interaction. And then the following year, they opened an all vegan line at one particular dorm.
Oh, awesome! That's awesome.
Yeah, and that was great because that was like 2002, 2003. I'm sure it's even better now on campus. But and the dorm that I lived in the first year did have an all vegetarian line. It was mostly everything was covered in cheese, but they did at least make an effort. So we focused more on that. I know that the leadership before me did more outreach about the primate research facility, and I think that they were doing more with that on campus because of PETA's campaign last year. And there's also a great Wisconsin has an animal rights, Wisconsin-based animal rights group called the Alliance for Animals and the Environment, and they do a lot of vegan outreach stuff. They have billboards and bus ads all over town, and they also do work on the primate facility and just trying to keep people aware of it because it's hidden on campus. It's just something it's just something that nobody sees, and so nobody thinks about it. And of course, that's the problem we have with a lot of these issues. So
that's something we share in common here. The University of Utah also has
they have a large
facility.
Yeah, they have a large facility here.
Yeah, it's depressing.
Yes, it is. But... So when my wife got pregnant, the first thing we did is we went through and researched everything we could and double checked all of our facts on being vegan and being pregnant, just to make sure.
Yeah.
Did you have like a similar experience? Like,
yeah, I think I went into it maybe a little bit arrogant, and part of it was like I've been vegan for at that point it was like 12 years, and I'm a professional vegan. I know what I'm doing, It was that kind of a thing, which I think I kind of did. But so I did spend time, researching online. I got I have this book right here. It's this vegan pregnancy book, The Everything Guide to Vegan Pregnancy. And so I started to read through that. But 8 weeks into my pregnancy, I discovered I was having twins. And that really rocked my whole world for a whole bunch of reasons, because it was an unplanned pregnancy and it was spontaneous identical twins. So suddenly I was going to have 2 children. And I just thought, I don't know. I mean, can I do this on can I get enough calories? Like, is this okay? And so I went online and there was just nothing. It was like crickets, there was just nothing. There was one woman who had a blog about her personal experience with a twin pregnancy as a vegan, which was super helpful. But nobody had really written about it from any kind of professional capacity or anything. So, I just kind of cobbled together what I could. And it was all fine. It was all perfect. It was all fine. But yeah, I did some reading, but I was just really shocked at the lack of online resources. Like if you Google vegan pregnancy or vegan parents, you get like these long nutrition articles that make you feel like you have to have some kind of a degree in dietetics to even keep your child alive. Like it's helpful information, but it can be kind of overwhelming. I think that there's a lot of folks who maybe haven't been vegan as long or just, haven't given as much thought to the nutrition stuff, who just get worried because it kind of ups the ante of your life a little bit to bring a kid into the world. Like, okay, I need to not mess this up. Like, I need to try, and there's just a lot of worry that you can take on, and even if you're trying really hard not to be worried, especially if your doctor is not super knowledgeable or your family isn't supportive, and they kind of put these little thoughts in your head, like, well, just have some eggs, or maybe you just need to have a little bit of milk, or, something. And so I definitely did some reading, but I was pretty shocked at the lack of information available in general.
We got like super lucky with our doctors. Like all of them were just like, "Oh, you're vegan? That's great," and there was nothing to worry about.
That's how my first doctor was in Virginia, and then we moved to Wisconsin, and then it was a whole different ballgame.
What happened in Wisconsin?
Well, we when I got pregnant, we were still living in Norfolk, Virginia. My husband and I both worked for PETA, and we hadn't worked there for a couple of years, but we were still in Norfolk. And so they were like, "Oh yeah, it's fine. We have a lot of vegan patients here. You guys usually eat better than everybody else, so just make sure you're doing this and this." And I actually met with a dietitian who specialized in vegan diets just to kind of go over everything. And she thought I was doing fine and gave me just some ideas for other foods I could try if I got bored with what I was eating, which was great. But then we got to Wisconsin, and I had this doctor. I didn't have much time to try to find a doctor. It was all kind of crazy. So I went with this guy who a couple of my friends had used. And he claimed in his 25-year practice to have never met another vegan mom. And I thought to myself, there is no way that that's true. I thought they maybe just didn't tell you because they didn't want to deal with it. Like, that's actually common. Like, pregnant women and parents don't tell their obstetricians or their pediatricians that they're vegan because they just want to avoid the topic, which I think can be kind of dangerous, honestly. It's, but I understand it at the same time. And so he was mostly fine, but I swear to you, every single time I saw him, which was like every 2 weeks because a twin pregnancy is high risk, so you have to go all the time, he would ask me about my diet and, be like, "Oh, well, you seem really great. How are you getting your protein?" He'd be like, "It's okay with me if you want to drink some Ensure or something." And I would say, "It might be okay with you, but it's not okay with me." And I would try every time to explain it to him. And so he recommended a couple of additional tests. He was worried about my iron levels. I was going to be anemic, and I wasn't. I was not, had no issues, no anemia, no gestational diabetes. My children were measuring as big as a singleton or bigger every single time. I didn't really have any problems, and he just seemed kind of confounded that could even be the case. He wasn't trying to push anything. He wasn't like giving me lectures or stuff, but he just was mystified, I think, by the whole thing. Meanwhile, my friend who was pregnant at the same time, who's not vegan, was going to see him. They never discussed her diet once, and she was anemic, and she did have problems. And he never asked her once what she ate. And I just thought, this is such a bunch of crap. It's just really, really ridiculous. And again, I thought, I've been vegan for a long time. I'm very solid in this. If someone's going to question me, I will tell them whatever they'd like to know and answer their questions because I'm pretty knowledgeable. But I thought about other women who weren't, or who didn't have the support base. And I had talked to some friends of mine who were in that situation, who, were just concerned. And that's part of why I wanted to start a website, to just help create a community, help all of us support each other a little bit more, and just, have that resource available.
I think it's great because, I'm obviously a vegan parent, but in animal rights circles and activist circles, sometimes being a parent is stigmatized and kind of looked down upon.
Yep.
And so you really do kind of have to find each other and really and bond and go through it together. Because you're right, there really isn't that many resources available.
Well, there are a lot of really nice websites that that several women run that are sort of recipe-focused websites about their personal recipes, their personal families. Many of them are excellent, but they're really focused on food. They're not talking about the social issues. They're not talking about, what to do when your kid is older and goes to a birthday party. that isn't vegan? Like, do you send food with him? Do you just not worry about it? Do you know, like, there's a lot of things to consider when you're somebody who believes in animal rights, is trying to raise your child in this aware, compassionate way. And it goes beyond pregnancy and beyond infancy into all these different facets of your life. I've found as a parent, I feel like there's all this, maybe because I have a lot of parent friends now, not all of whom are vegan.
Mm-hmm.
People are going to the zoo. They're talking about going to the aquarium. There's just this huge marketing push to parents that you have to take your kids to these places and see the animals. Hooray. And I just think it's horrible, you know. And I never really noticed it as much when I was not a parent. Obviously, I knew that the zoos existed, but I wasn't really paying attention as much to their marketing. And I just think that there are so many ways that we can help each other and possibly help other parents too, because there are more and more people who are trying to go vegan, who already have children, who are trying to bring their family along with them, which poses a whole new set of challenges, especially if your spouse maybe isn't totally on board. One of the women involved in our group to start Generation Veggie, she's vegan. Her partner is definitely not, and he thinks that she's kind of nuts. And their kids are kind of on board, but they're also confused. You know, and there's just a lot of challenges that folks face. And also, you know, there could be fun things like, okay, Easter is coming, or, you know, springtime celebrations. I don't want to have an egg hunt. What can I do? What are some fun things that we can do instead to help our kids have a fun childhood, feel like they're normal, whatever that means, you know, participate in fun childhood things, because most of us were not raised this way. There's no real roadmap. We're kind of making it up a little bit as we go along, which is fine, but maybe we can help each other make it up a little bit more effectively.
Sorry, I laughed when you said normal because that's something my daughter said the other day. She's like, I'm just not normal.
Well, way to go. No, it's true. I mean, I was raised normally. I never really felt normal, so maybe it was just somewhere inside of me I knew that I was not meant to live a normal life. Whatever that means. But, you know, we don't want our kids to feel like they are denied things. We want them, you know, to understand why animal rights is important, understand why it's a privilege to be able to live this way and to eat compassionately and act compassionately and help them get excited about it. Because kids have a natural, you know, inborn love for animals. My kids go nuts over kittens, like kitten all the time. They just, you know, it's just we don't have a cat. It doesn't matter. They just love kittens. And a lot of kids, when they find out where meat comes from, get upset, you know, and freak out, understandably, because I don't think it's a natural thing for humans to want to kill other beings for no good reason. So, yeah.
You know, one of the greatest things I've ever seen my daughter do, she's 7 now, and I've seen this several times. Well, she'll be talking to other kids her age, and they'll be bringing up, like they'll be giving out candy or something. She'll be like, no, I can't eat it. And they'll be like, oh, why? She's like, oh, it has animals in it. They're like, oh, I like animals. She goes, then why do you kill them?
I think I've known a lot of kids. I knew this one couple, their kids at the grocery store would like yell at people who had chickens in their cart, like dead chicken carcasses. Like, why are you buying that? Why are you going to eat a chicken? And it's, you know, like at the one hand, you want to like be like, yeah, go after this vegan kid. The other hand, you want to be like, oh my God, we have to exist in the world and not.
Yeah. Every time my daughter walks by a meat deli, she plugs her nose and yells, "This rotting flesh stinks." Like,
oh my God. Oh, that's wonderful.
I was laughing because you brought up that sometimes you have to, you know, send food with your kids to a birthday party.
Yeah.
And I've seen like the things that you send with Izzy when she goes to birthday parties. She'll get like a vegan cupcake from the local vegan bakery.
Yeah.
And then all the kids there are going to be eating Walmart cake, and all the kids are looking at her cupcake like, I want that.
She has this like really fancy like $4 cupcake and
has like decorations on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, you know, and I think we're going to try really hard on the site to, everything on the site that we recommend is going to be vegan in nature. But at the same time, like, we understand that families have to make it work, and every kid's personality is going to be different. Every scenario is going to be different. So my goal is to kind of talk about how families handle some of these issues, provide stories and examples, and then kind of give like our top recommendations, things to consider in trying to make it work. Because I would love it if my daughters were like yours and we're holding their nose when we walk past the meat section. A friend of mine, he has 2 children, and his son insists that he's not vegetarian, he's just vegan, because their mom still drinks cow's milk. But his daughter, who's younger, is really committed to being vegan. Like, she's all about it. And she's in preschool, and their preschool teachers are really aware of not giving her certain things. And one day she was like, I really hope we're having fruit today as a snack and not cupcakes. And her dad was like, what? Why wouldn't you want a cupcake? And she said, well, I can't eat the cupcakes. I just want to have some fruit. And he felt badly, like maybe he was denying her a cupcake, but she was cool with it. Like, she was like, you know what? It's not worth it to me to eat this cupcake. I know I can have other cupcakes at different times. But some kids, it might be more of a challenge for them. And I think you have to pick your battles a little bit.
That's one thing I've always talked to my daughter about. I've always asked her, like, has this been hard for you? Like, especially now that she's older and can really, express her feelings. And she's always just been like, no, it's right. It sucks sometimes because, I go without, but it's what you do. Yeah. And so, you feel a little bad, but you're just like, she realizes it. She recognizes it.
I know when I was a kid, like, one of the first times, like, right after I went vegan, they were having ice cream at my school, and I was feeling really, really left out. I was like, I want some ice cream. So I totally would get it if a kid felt that way, but that's awesome that she was so cool about it.
Yeah. It's great. So what was like the hardest thing with you being pregnant?
Honestly, I was just really hungry. I was so hungry all the time. And, at first I didn't know it was twins. And then my doctor said, well, you just have to eat a little bit more, but it's pretty much the same as having one. And I thought to myself, that sounds wrong. And so I did some more research, and I read this book called What to Expect When You're expecting multiples, or something like that. And it was a really anti-vegan book, actually. And I actually wrote the author a letter later and was like, look, I think you need to calm down a little bit. I was vegan. I had twins. It was great. And she said that she was actually going to consider, rewriting that part of the book, which was very nice of her. But anyway, I read these books and did some research, and I decided to actually increase my calorie intake significantly. I ate about 3,500 calories a day. I told people that I ate like an Olympian, basically. And I was just hungry. And I just, my girls were big and they were growing and they were just sucking the life out of me. So I had to just keep eating.
3,500 calories? 3,500,
yeah, between 3,000 and 3,500 calories. And that was probably from like month 5 or 6 on.
That's a ton of food.
It's a ton. Like I said before, I love food. I love to eat, but I was tired of eating. I was just like, I don't want to have to chew anymore. I don't want to have to eat anything. And I probably ate, I don't know, like a few hundred ounces of water, or drank a few hundred ounces of water a day. I gained 110 pounds, mostly on purpose. I was trying to gain pretty much as I could, because this woman's book I read convinced me that part of why women with twins and other multiples have premature birth is that they're not eating enough. They're not doing enough to really sustain the pregnancy. And of course, there are tons of other factors that lead to premature birth, but she really convinced me. She actually runs a clinic exclusively for women who are having multiples in Michigan. Because there really isn't any good research about it. And this is what I learned. Like the recommendations that have been made by the American Dietetic Association, the American Medical Association, are not based on research. They're just kind of guesses, like ballpark estimates. So I did eat a lot. The entire month of like my 3rd month, I never felt full, which was a horrible feeling. Like I just couldn't eat enough. And I was eating, high calorie, high protein, like not raw. You know, like how many faux meats and cream cheese based things can I get into my body? Like it was that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually that got better. So I just ate a lot and tried to really get a wide variety of foods. But eating was like a part-time job for me while I was pregnant. So that was my biggest challenge. And I think I made it to 38 weeks, so I was full term, and I was just enormous, and I couldn't really walk. It took me probably 6 months to feel like I could sit in a chair properly, and like it just really messed up my body. But I'm back to normal now, so that's good.
So
not doing that again. I'll just say that. Not doing that again.
So what were some of the foods that you craved the most?
You know, it's funny. I didn't have any specific cravings. I just wanted food. Like I just wanted to eat. But I did probably have cravings for things like toaster waffles. I had a lot of those, like it was like hemp, whatever those, like, you know, hippie hemp, gluten-free, whatever, toaster waffles. A lot of pasta. You know, I love sweets, but I really didn't eat very many. I was trying really hard to not, you know, bulk up on just cake, even though I would love to eat cake all day, every day. I also used that Vega protein powder,
Okay.
which was really wonderful because it doesn't really have a very specific flavor. It's very mild. But that was also a chore. Like my husband would make me the smoothie and I'd be like, oh, I don't want to eat anymore. And so I would sit there and just like force myself to drink this stupid smoothie. And I didn't have a smoothie for months after that. Like I have had very few smoothies since I had my children. But you do what you have to do. I would wake up every morning at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the morning, and I would have a Builder bar or two. And just like inhale it and then try to go back to sleep. So yeah. It was
I know my wife was always worried about craving non-vegan food when she got pregnant, but she never did at all.
Yeah, I didn't either. No, I didn't either. And you know, people talk about how cravings is, you know, it means that your body is missing something, but the research has shown that is not true.
Yeah, that's not true at all. Yeah.
Cravings are a psychological thing. It's about comfort. It's about, you know, something that maybe you are familiar with or some other psychological reason. And luckily now, because I'm not stuck with eating Eden soy and that crappy cream cheese, like you can make anything that you want that you are craving that maybe isn't vegan, you can make vegan, I think. So that helps. Certainly.
What do your daughters crave? Like what do they love that you didn't think they would love?
They love olives.
Uh-huh.
I don't like olives, and they will eat olives like by the bucketful.
Black olives?
All kinds of olives, like Kalamata olives, garlic stuffed olives.
Really?
Yes, any kind of olive. And I'm like, who are you people? They eat, their dad makes them sauteed spinach and sauteed mushrooms and sauteed beet greens, and they just eat it. We gave them sauteed beet greens and then some macaroni and cheese. And they were like, I'm not so sure about this macaroni and cheese, but these sauteed beet greens are awesome. And I was like, this is not what a 2-year-old is supposed to do. You're confused. You're supposed to eat just the mac and cheese. But they like licked the bowl. So yeah, it's really an interesting testament. I mean, partly identical twins are interesting because they're genetically pretty much the same. There are little quirks here and there, but they're pretty much the same. And they like all the same stuff. There are some things that they just don't like, period. But definitely when they see us eating something, they at least want to try it. So we've been making an effort to eat more healthfully, eat more whole foods. Again, I'm the kind of person that I just want like cream cheese and cake, but my husband is trying. Luckily, he's in charge of the cooking right now, so he's been getting us to eat beets. And
I can't do beets. I'm sorry.
No.
I like beets.
Yeah. You should be sorry. You should.
Oh.
No. I actually love beets. I just don't want to bother to have to make them. So.
Yeah, borscht is really good, but it's just time consuming.
Yeah, it's also super messy. Like,
Yeah.
my husband actually he makes these muffins that have beets in them. He took this like omnivore double chocolate chip cupcake or double chocolate chip muffin recipe, and he converted it to this healthy beet with flax powder recipe.
So it'd be like red velvet, kind of.
Yeah, it looks like red velvet. It's more like hot pink, but it's it's fun and it has beets in it, and the girls love it. And I'm like, this is crazy. And I'm thinking, when I was a kid, I had mostly Lucky Charms, those little like miniature white powdered donuts. Those were good.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's amazing I survived it all. But no, not really, but I just ate standard crap. So it's exciting to see my kids. Like, they eat like peas and carrots by the handful. And one of my aunt was like, I've never seen a kid eat vegetables like that. And I'm like, it's normal to them. That's food, So.
I remember we were at a family Thanksgiving, and not my entire extended family is vegan. I think my daughter was 4 at the time, and she had eaten all of her asparagus and broccoli. She's like, I want more asparagus and broccoli. And we're like, you need to eat more carrots first. And like all the other parents were like, how do you get her to eat asparagus and broccoli? Like, like it's like her favorite food. Like,
yeah. I think, and you know what? Like, I have to think that those other kids probably would like it. Like, there's just this weird cultural thing of like, oh, kids only want to eat hot dogs and chicken nuggets. Like, well, my kids just had a veggie hot dog as well for lunch, but they also eat the other stuff, and it's really about variety. I know that when my girls started eating solid foods, I had a moment of panic of like, okay, what can I give them? How are they going to get everything that they need? And again, like, even I, who's been doing this for a while, was like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, this uncharted territory. Because when you go vegan when you're 19, you don't think about what a toddler is going to eat, like, whatever. But my life is very different now. Luckily, I have a friend who's a vegan mom and a dietitian. Her name is Cynthia Pfeffer, and she's actually going to be writing a column on generationveggie.org about nutrition and just answering people's questions and kind of giving some ideas for what to feed kids. But then I was like, hold on a second. Most little kids eat fruits and, cut up bananas and cut up carrots, and I don't need to worry that much. And oatmeal, which has a lot of protein in it. These are all standard things. So it's, again, I think it's maybe it's just me, but I've talked to a lot of parents, and it seems pretty common that you just get these messages, especially about milk. Your kids need milk. They need to build their bones, and they need this. And it's just a lie. It's just a straight up marketing, mythology it's based on nothing real, nothing scientific, but people believe it. Everybody wants their kid to be healthy and to have what they need, and so parents are trying to do the best that they can. And I would love it. I would love to see us as a community within animal rights push back and say, there are a lot of vegan families, vegetarian families, people who are trying to eat more vegan foods and help their kids eat more healthfully, and just to have a resource. Because you're totally right what you said before, that there is a weird stigma in our community. And I think it's challenging because if you're an animal rights activist, humans are the enemy. Like, that's the bottom line. At least some humans are the enemy, but they're also our only hope to fixing everything, unless we just go extinct. But that's not going to happen anytime soon. So we need to figure out a way to not only reach people when they're adults and say, hey, did you know about this? Did you know that all of your behaviors for your entire life have actually been horribly cruel? Like, it's harder to change somebody once they've been doing what they think is normal for their whole lives. Wouldn't it be amazing if more and more kids were just raised this way from the get-go, if they were like your daughter and just thought it was normal and enjoyed it because they felt like it was important? And I think that I really hope that the vegan community stops making parents feel like they've made a bad choice or that they're part of the problem, because we're trying to raise kids who are part of the solution. And it would be great if our community as a whole would support that.
Well, I know my wife and myself are really excited about your project. One of the questions I have is, why did you decide to go with Indiegogo for the funding?
We looked at Kickstarter as well, because that's probably one of the more common ones. But they have more strict requirements about what types of campaigns can be run on their site, and they also have higher fees if you don't reach. They're just less flexible about their structure. So on Kickstarter, if you don't reach your goal, you don't get the money. On Indiegogo, they have options where you can still get whatever money you've raised, even if you don't reach your goal. So that was the main motivation. They were just more flexible in what they offered.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's I like, that flexibility. Because that's something we're looking at doing for funding our next season.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was nice. And like Kickstarter has specific categories, and you guys, I think that they have a broadcasting category, but for us, like they're more for sort of, artistic endeavor a little bit more. Indiegogo is really open to anybody. Like if you want to buy yourself a burrito, you can start a campaign. Ask people to give you money, which is ridiculous, but they're much more flexible.
And I know my wife's been wanting to do a vegan parenting podcast. She wants to find another parent to do it with. She's been really wanting to do that for a while, so maybe this will give her the jump start to actually get it going.
Yeah, I would love to talk with her. I mean, one if she's interested in talking to me and talking more about Generation Veggie. I mean, one of our goals is to try to kind of centralize a little bit all the different resources that are out there, like not take them over, but just provide a way to give people access to all the blogs that are out there and kind of highlight them. And the president of our board of directors is a lawyer. We've talked about trying to provide not legal advice, but like legal information to parents who are going through a divorce, whose ex-spouse isn't vegan, who are trying to sue them for custody because they think that being vegan is child abuse. I mean, this.
Oh, geez, I never even thought about that.
Wow.
Yeah, that comes up a lot on the Facebook parenting group. Actually, there's a lot out there that people struggle with. I actually would love to do a podcast. And just to reach out to people that way. I think that there are a lot of topics. One of the families that's going to be writing for us, their son has autism. He's a high-functioning autistic. So we're going to talk about having a vegan kid who has a disability or has, this challenge that isn't maybe present for every kid.
That's awesome.
There's just a lot of issues. You have LGBT families, parents who are adopting children who are raising them vegan, which can be a challenge as the child is older. I had some friends in Virginia who adopted a son, and their family was vegetarian, and he was kind of like, I don't think so. There's just depending on where you're coming from, your particular challenges may be unique to you, but there are other people out there who are going through the same type of stuff, or who at least can say, hey, I hear you, that sounds challenging. Here are some thoughts. I also want to have a great resource of recipes. I will spend like an hour or two online trying to find like toddler friendly recipes that are either vegan or that I can veganize, that are simple, that my kids might actually want to eat, and because, I guess there are some kids in the world who will just eat whatever their families eat, whether it's spicy or weird or whatever. But I don't know. For some reason, kids in our country maybe are not quite as adventurous. And I would like to be able to provide things that are tasty, but also have like a high nutritional value, basically.
There was a really interesting study that was just released a little while ago about toddlers and their taste. And apparently it's a lot more complex than most Americans ever realized that it was. And they're able to eat more spice, not spicy hot, but more like spices and flavorful foods than people really gave them credit for. And my daughter, I think, it's anecdotal, of course, but she's definitely that way. She, if you ask her, especially like with spicy hot food, it's really funny. She's like, I don't like spicy hot food, but to normal people who don't eat any spicy food, it's way spicy the food she eats, because we eat really spicy food.
Well, and I think that vegans in general, just we have a lot of flavorful foods. Like you have to know how to use spices to make good vegan food. We definitely try to add garlic powder and onion powder, or different things to our kids' food, nutritional yeast, just different things to get them used to it, and to also just say, hey, this is what food tastes like. This is how it is, and they're definitely good with that.
I get lectured when I run out of nutritional yeast from her.
Yeah, our girls are getting more and more into nutritional yeast for sure. I hate that it's called that. It sounds like the grossest thing, but really it's the best thing.
I love it.
That's why nooch is always the good go-to word
Our
for it.
container actually says nooch on it.
Yeah, I like that word. I don't know. It sounds, maybe I'm just old school. It sounds weird to me, but yeah.
It sounds very drug culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, something about it. But
Better
yeah,
than
just
nut
to have
use.
recipes, and also, like I was thinking, there are all these sites of family-friendly recipes that you can freeze, like freezer-friendly recipes, crock-pot recipes, and there are some out there that are vegan. But to really have like a central resource, like if you are a vegan family or a vegetarian family, like this is where you go as your first step, at least to try to find new recipes. Or at least just different ideas. Like, what are some like superfoods you can add to your kids' food? Like, what do chia seeds do? What can you do with flax seeds? Not everybody has been vegan since they were in middle school or since they were 19. Like, some people are just coming into this relatively new. Especially if you're trying to convince your 8-year-old who's been an omnivore her whole life that we're going to eat these new foods now. That's different than your kid who gets mad when you run out of nutritional use.
Yeah.
Because that's her thing.
Yeah, one of the odd things that I've never understood with her is this is ever since she was like 3. If she sees tofu in the fridge, she'll eat it raw.
Some people like raw tofu. I am not one of those people.
It's crazy. All the time I'll turn around to go cook something. I'm like, where's the tofu? She's like, oh, I ate it as a snack. And we're like, what?
Oh my god. Oh man, that's really great.
So much better cooked.
Yeah. Probably not something that happens in many households.
No, I can't imagine an 8-year-old who's never tried tofu, just randomly being like, ooh, this weird texture stuff, I'm just going to eat all the time.
I'm just going to eat it even though my dad wants to use it. Yeah. I kind of feel like, this is going to sound maybe cheesy, but I feel like this is kind of the time. Like, we haven't really heard very much about vegan families. There have been a couple of pregnancy books written that have been great, and there's a few blogs out there. Once in a while, you'll see an article on Veg News, like, oh, hey, yeah, vegan kids, what's that about? But it's just not something that's been a big area of focus. And one of the things that I would like to try to eliminate is the phrase, I used to be vegan, but then I got pregnant.
Yes.
I really, I mean, obviously you can't reach everybody, but if we can do something to help support women and their partners in knowing that it's okay and giving them the resources that they need and the supportive community that they need if they don't have that already, I just think that that's huge. And then, people who are not sure about raising their kids vegan, like, well, I don't want to force it on them. Well, that's a choice every parent has to make, but here are some of the reasons why I think raising your kid vegan is a great choice to make for them. Because you make all kinds of choices for your kids, then that's just the bottom line. So trying to support parents in making that decision, even though it is counter to the norm, although it's growing. And I think it's just going to keep getting bigger.
I was going to say both those statements are fighting words for my wife.
I'm sure, I know. And there are women like us who are committed to veganism, who are like all in, who are like, no, here's what I'm doing and here's why it's good. But, everybody is in a different place and has a different level of support from their spouse and their family. So I just think that there's more that can be done. And even if there are vegans out there listening or, who hear about our project, who don't like the idea of vegans breeding and think that, we're adding to the population problem, I hear that. There are a lot of vegan families who adopt, which I think is incredible and important, but we're out there and we're trying to make a difference in raising our kids in a compassionate and thoughtful way. And knowing that we're out there, knowing that there are more and more of us. I mean, I swear in the last 5 years, so many people that I know who are vegan have had kids. Like, my Facebook feed is ridiculous. It's just so many babies. And so I feel like that's a little bit different maybe than past generations of animal rights activists, where they just weren't interested in having kids, or perhaps they had children who were already grown, and these people became animal rights activists after their children were grown. I feel like our generation is maybe the first one to have, I had no data on this, but to have kids in larger numbers. And hopefully that will just continue to happen, and we'll see veganism grow as a result.
One thing I wanted to note is that I've seen vegans even say that it's wrong to force your kids to be vegan, and I think that's really weird, because
You're forcing something.
You're
either
forcing
way.
something either way. You're forcing them to eat meat if you don't, or you're forcing them to eat veggies.
Right.
I don't get how it's forcing your kid.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe it's just vegans don't have to be told what to do. We like to think of ourselves as counterculture and, radicals. But no, that's the absolute truth. I mean, you're making all kinds of decisions for your children. And I'm a big believer as a parent in letting my child lead and guide a lot of elements of their own lives.
Mm-hmm.
I don't intend to force them to learn how to play the piano, for example. I don't intend to force them to try to play soccer. Like, I'm going to let them dictate a lot of the things that they get to do. But this is something that's important to me as a value system. And I think all parents pass along their values to their kids. It's just a matter of what your values are. So, yeah, I don't really understand that. I think that if we are determined to help animals and to grow veganism and to improve the rights of animals, then we need to bring in as many vegans as we can, either through birthing them, through adopting them, through converting them with our information. It should be all hands on deck, whatever you can do.
Creating armies of vegans.
Yeah, totally.
I just don't see any reason not to, especially because all the vegan parents I know are very thoughtful about it and are not like, you will eat this tofu. Like, that's not how we roll,
I've had those moments.
You had moments where you were like, you will eat this tofu?
Yeah. Well, yeah, because she wouldn't eat anything.
Oh, right. Well, every
Yeah.
parent has that.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of what you're trying to get them to eat.
Yeah. No, one of the things you brought up was adoption. This is a question that me and my wife have been researching for a little bit. Is we've been thinking about it, and one of the stumbling blocks for us is we can't find baby formula that's vegan anymore.
There isn't baby formula that's vegan, as far as I know. Yeah, and that's one of those, I think, do the best you can scenarios. I mean, our children had mostly formula for the first 11 months. I tried to breastfeed for the first month and did a bunch of pumping and but I honestly, and I have no guilt about this, I didn't want to. I was exhausted from being pregnant. I had just ate 3,500 calories a day for 6 months. Like, I was exhausted. And so we chose formula, and our girls did great on it, and it wasn't 100% vegan. The vitamin D.
Yeah, that's what's in a lot of it, is the vitamin D3.
Yeah, and it's something that I would like to consider Generation Veggie maybe having a campaign for, like trying to at least talk to some of the companies and be like, hey, it would be super if we could work on this.
Well, we
and
went so far.
We
actually contacted, there's 2 companies in the United States that manufacture dry formula, and they do all the private label formula, and neither one said they would consider making a formula not using D3.
Yeah, that's interesting. It may just be one of those things. But again, I mean, I'm the kind of vegan where if I get really sick, I haven't been sick in years, but if I had bronchitis, I would take my antibiotics even if they're tested on animals, because I can't help animals if I'm really sick. I also think that even if you adopted a child and fed them formula for the first several months that wasn't 100% vegan, but you raised them with vegan ideals the rest of their lives, like, that's still helping more animals than not. We live in an imperfect non-vegan world, and no vegan out there is 100%, level 5 all the time.
Pocket mulching.
I pocket compost. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I mean, and I think, most vegans, like, we all know that. People look at vegans and say, oh, you're extreme. And it's like, no, we're just trying to make the most compassionate choice we had, within the list of choices available. When you can, choose kindness. That's the most simple thing to me about veganism. But yeah, you're right. The formula issue is unfortunate.
What's funny to me is that you spit out the reference level 5 vegan, and every vegan knows what you're talking about.
Yeah. We do. It's just, that's the thing. And I always tell people, like, when you first go vegan, I think you should have a 6-month grace period where you can be a level 5 vegan. Like, you get 6 months to be really angry and just really crazy, and that's cool. But then you need to calm down. Like,
I think this is like just watching people and going through it. I think for most people, it goes in a little bit of a waves where it peaks at about 3 and 5 years. Like, they get really angry again at 3 and really angry again at 5.
They just have more like, I'm still so angry about this. Yeah.
I'm always angry.
Just kidding. No.
No, and there's so much to be angry about. I mean, a friend of mine recently had this ridiculous interaction with a guy on a bus. He saw her vegan tattoo or button or something, and he was basically like, oh, that's cool. And then he told her about how he works at a primate research facility, as if it was like a cool thing because he works with animals, and so she would like that. and she was like, the fact that vegans don't set the world on fire every day is a testament to our self-restraint. Like, there's just so much that you're like, oh my God, I want to kill everyone. But that's not going to change anything.
That's the funniest thing I've heard. Oh, you like animals? I test on animals.
Right. People are just, I mean, I don't know if he was like doing it on purpose to be a jerk or if he's just that oblivious. I don't know.
I bet he's that oblivious.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
A lot of people are. I mean, we can talk about this all the time. Most of us were not raised this way. We didn't know. And once you know, you make better choices. And sometimes it takes a while to make better choices because you have a lot of psychological blocks that you put up and excuses that you make. But all we can do is just keep putting the information out there. And I think I'm excited to raise my family vegan and to try to be an example of not crazy people. Like, like we're normal people living in Wisconsin, which I think is like the most normal place. I don't know. It's like, oh, hum, Wisconsin. Going to the park, doing regular family things. We just don't think it's okay to torture animals, and we try to make choices that reflect that opinion. So,
well, I can't believe it. We're already at an hour. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. So how can people get in contact with you and help support your Indiegogo campaign?
They can just go to generationveggie.org. That will direct them right to our Indiegogo campaign. We're a little more than halfway there right now. We're trying to raise $5,000, and that will fund a WordPress developer and designer to make a nice, properly functioning, attractive, professional website. And it will also help us fund some of the fees to actually start a nonprofit organization and just some of the other. It's actually expensive to start a nonprofit organization, which is sort of weird, sort of ironic. So we're more than halfway there right now. And they can just go to generationveggie.org. We're hoping to have the site up by the end of the year. And if anyone listening wants to write for us or create recipes or has a graphic design background, we would love to hear from you. This is an all volunteer run organization. We really want to bring in folks, who have an interest, who want to be part of a community, and to, help come together and hopefully make a resource that's going to help parents and help families.
Not to throw Jordan under the bus here, but he actually is a web programmer and graphic designer.
I am.
Hey, Jordan.
Hello. How's it going?
I'm just hoping to put it out there. And we had a woman contact us last week who lives in Portland who does web development, and she's now part of our group. We have about a dozen people from all over the country who are participating. We just have different levels of experience and interest. But certainly we need more people. I don't want it to just be me writing all the content about my life. The point of this is to have a variety of voices and experiences, and to, like I said, try to come together and do something that hasn't really been done before in our community.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much for doing this. It's been a lot of fun. And this will get posted tomorrow.
Yeah.
So we'll get it up there, and hopefully people can get on and get you funded.
Yeah, we would really appreciate it. I know that money is tight for a lot of folks. Even $15, $10 is great. We have actually quite a few perks on the site, different gift cards. I have a whole stack of fur and feathers, animal games. This animal rights game for families that people can get for $50 $50 donation. They're just sitting in my office, folks. I have them here. I'll ship them to you. So if you can give us $50, we'll send you a board game. So we have a lot of support, which has been awesome, and people can read more about the perks on the Indiegogo page.
All right, awesome. Well, I'm talking to my wife, and we're thinking about doing the $50 level because we want that board game.
Good. I want that out of my office. They're really awesome games. They're really fun. It's definitely everything you need. Unique, not going to find anywhere else. So, definitely. And I would love to talk, with you guys, any of you more, if you want to help out. I would love to kind of have your podcast, because I love to hear the sound of my own voice. So, if your wife wants a partner, I would talk to her about it. Anyway, I'm just happy to be on the show, and I appreciate you guys allowing us to have the time.
No
thank
problem.
You so
It's
much.
been good.
And have a wonderful Sunday.
Thank you. I'm going to go see how my children are and see if they need to have a diaper change. No, their dad's with them. They're okay. I'll just go make sure everyone's still alive upstairs and everyone's doing okay. Awesome. Well, yes, you as well. Enjoy your Sunday, and thanks again.
Okay,
Yeah, thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
This week we heard.
Soyin, like water.
Right now you're listening to.
Hator Himzo's Sunshine.
And as always,
El Comandantes.
which side are you on? You didn't do the robot thing.
I didn't want to.
Why didn't you want to do the robot thing?
Because I'm not a robot, I'm a human.
Okay. Please remember to rate and review us on iTunes.
You can also find us on social media and follow us and like us.
Definitely. All of the social medias.
All of them.
All.
Even the ones we don't know about.
All of them. Is that how it goes?
Kind of, somewhat.
Okay.
Also Amazon is a place that you buy things, and if you buy things from them, you should go to our website first and click on our Amazon affiliate link, and we'll get money, and it won't cost you anything.
It just takes money away from Amazon. Because we're supposed to promote Amazon, and they get more money by doing that. But we're doing the opposite, saying only do it if you're already going to be using Amazon.
Yeah, and I know that you use it. You know you do.
Everyone. Okay, come on.
I used it the other day.
Everyone uses it.
Don't tell me you don't.
Yeah. And it's anonymous. We don't know who you are, so don't worry about all the, the shady things you buy. It's good.
But you can tell us if you want.
It's all good.
I'm interested.
I want to know. If you do it, great. I'll give you a high five and be like, holy crap, you bought what?
Yeah.
Fuck shit damn.
Fuck shit damn.
Which Side is produced by the Which Side Media Collective.